Hello foodie friends, we are back again with another really cool little cookbook. This one is Pennsylvania Dutch foods. I picked this up from the Good and Plenty restaurant when we were up there in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and it was some of the best food we'd ever eaten. So we're gonna try to recreate that experience just a little bit right here in the kitchen. Now, you may notice that this is a lot of food, and usually, this is a lot more than what I usually have sitting here, and there's kind of a special reason for that. So usually out of one cookbook, just to kind of simplify the video process, I typically pick one dish and then we judge the cookbook from that. However, this is just not that kind of cookbook. The foods aren't really standalone. They're meant to be picked from your soups and then your side dishes and then your main dishes and then put together as a complete family style meal. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to have a main dish and then we've got two sides that I've picked to put together with it, and we're going to make a complete meal just like it would be served at the restaurant. So since we have a ton of cooking, let's go ahead and get started, and I will get some of this ready and then I will catch you on the flip side and show you what I've done. Hope you're ready because we're gonna do a lot of cooking. First, you're gonna take your ham, cut a small section into cubes, and use your food processor to go ahead and grind about 2 cups. The food we're making here will hopefully taste something like what we had at the restaurant The Good and Plenty in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. The restaurant itself was started in 1969 by a couple named Christ and Dolly Lapp. And yes, I really hope I'm pronouncing his name right, but it is spelled exactly like Jesus Christ. The restaurant has now become renowned for its good Pennsylvania Dutch food and its pies and bread. Now as for the ham, go ahead and cube some of it for your green beans. And the rest of it, I just put it in my freezer to make another meal out of it later. Now in a bowl, go ahead and combine your ham, breadcrumbs, your milk, cold water, your beaten eggs, and your tablespoon of butter. Sprinkle it with mustard and black pepper. You shouldn't need any salt as your ham will be cured and salty enough. And I went ahead and sprayed one of my bread pans and poured the ham mixture in there to bake. The recipe doesn't specify what to bake it on, however it does say a moderate oven, and according to some other recipe books, that's about 350 degrees. So that's what I chose and baked it for about 1 hour. I did end up covering it with tin foil about halfway through just so the top wouldn't burn. Now we're going to go ahead and get our vegetables and potatoes ready. I scrubbed the potatoes well and then put them in a pot with water to boil on the stovetop. Your green beans you'll also cook in a pot of water with your ham slices. And because I used frozen corn, I went ahead and microwaved those to get those ready. Now you can see here I've got everything cooking on the stove. The green beans are nearly done and so are the potatoes. Now we'll go ahead and saute our onions in a little bit of butter. Those will be added to our potato mixtures later. And now for our casserole. Go ahead and layer the green beans first, followed by a layer of corn. Repeat those layers like a lasagna until both ingredients are gone. Then you'll pour over your milk and add a lump of butter. The recipe doesn't state this, but if you would like to, go ahead and add some salt, as we actually found the ham was not salty enough for this dish. Now you're going to bake that for at least half an hour. Again, the recipe didn't state what temperature to put the oven on, but I went ahead and just added it to the last 30 minutes of baking the ham loaf. Now for the messy part. I let my potatoes cool a little bit in a bowl of cold water. I then removed the peel. They were still warm, but they were just cool enough to handle. And now you're just going to take a grater and grate each potato. Now in a bowl, you're going to go ahead and add to the potatoes your chopped onions, along with a beaten egg and some minced parsley. Mix all that together, and then add enough flour to make a stiff dough. Mix all that together. Then you will form small balls, roll each of them into breadcrumbs, and then we're going to deep fry them. And yes, this process was long and tedious. Maybe if you're lucky to have extra help in the kitchen, go ahead and give them this job. Now the recipe didn't state again, however, we found that the addition of salt would have been a perfect addition to this dish. So go ahead and add it before you form the balls. And now we're going to deep fry them into a beautiful golden brown color. Now sadly, Mr. Lapp passed away last year at the age of 91. He was survived by his wife after 71 years of marriage and left a restaurant that's still operating exactly as he wanted it, with good food and plenty of it. And if you can't get to the restaurant, maybe you can make some of these dishes and bring a little taste of the restaurant into your own home. Okay, so after a long time in the kitchen, tons of dishes, and a really hot stove, we finally got a complete meal. So we've got a meat, a vegetable, and our potatoes. So let's just go ahead and dig in. Now you've already had some thoughts before we turn the camera on, but we'll reserve those after we taste it. Yeah, okay. Now some of the potatoes are really hot, so be careful.
Okay.
Whoa. Okay. Well, no. Let's just go through all three and then we'll reserve. Okay. I'm gonna try the vegetables next. Okay. There is one thing I was a little worried about, and I already
salt.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit worried about the potatoes too, because there's nowhere did it say to salt and pepper, except for put pepper in this. So they have the capacity to say salt and pepper. They've used it in some of the recipes, but I think they might have been relying on the ham to be super salty, which apparently this ham just wasn't salty enough. So we will be adding salt to that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now for the potato ball, I'm a little bit scared of that too because there's no salt. Okay. It's good, but
I would add salt.
Yeah, let's try it again. Just with a little bit. And I mean, they may be assuming that you're going to do this after, because a lot of people do salt their food after.
To taste.
Instead of adding it. We just add it during the cooking process.
Well, for something like a potato ball, I think it would be better to add it.
I do too, yeah.
Like, while you're cooking, you know what I mean? Like when you're putting it together.
Okay. I definitely improved the vegetables. Did you get enough on that?
Yeah, I think it was improved in both cases. It actually brought out a lot more flavor in the potato ball that you didn't actually taste before that, I don't think.
All of a sudden, the potato balls went from like a 3-star, I would say, to like a 4.
Yeah,
4.5.
4.5, yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. And the vegetables are very similar to that.
Yeah.
Now, the vegetables, I would say, like, it's pretty common to salt those after the fact.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And
so,
also,
it's easy to do. But a potato ball, I think you should have
definitely
salt that, like, while you're making it.
I think so, too. And I think a lot of times when recipes rely on salted meats, the fear is, you know, when you buy a ham, they don't tell you what kind of ham. Usually they never tell you what kind of ham to get, you know, in terms of like, it'll just say cured. Well, every company out there has a different definition of cured and how much salt that they put into their product.
Yeah.
So anytime that you're, you know, using salted meats, usually the recipe will err on the side of caution in terms of like salting the dish in addition to that. So I can kind of understand that with the vegetables. With the potato balls, I'm inclined to think it was an omission.
Yeah.
I think it was just a pure omission, and I think that any Amish or Mennonite woman who is making this, they would have definitely added some salt and pepper to the batter. And I almost did. I almost was like, no, that's got to be an omission. But then I was like, no, we're going to go strictly by the recipe because that's what we do.
Right.
That's
and then we judge it by the recipe. So,
we judge it based on how well it's written also. There's some cookbooks out there that we were like, boy, you omitted a lot. Like that was a really poor, writing recipe. But let's go ahead and talk about the meat dish. Yeah. Now, you said it doesn't look like the one
It doesn't look
at
like
the restaurant.
One we ate at the restaurant. And I think after tasting it also, I think there's a couple like reasons because it doesn't taste quite like that one either. I think definitely they probably pureed everything a little bit more. Like it's a little bit more like consistent texture throughout. Whereas like with this, I can actually like feel and taste the ham chunks separate from the bread chunks kind of
Well,
thing.
they have more professional
equipment and stuff like that. So I think it was like more of a consistent like texture throughout, which I don't mind this at all. But I also think it had a lot sweeter taste.
I was going to bring that up. The one we tasted at the Good and Plenty, it tasted like there was definitely sugar.
I mean, it was
in that batter.
Like it was a sweet ham.
Yeah, I think now this didn't say to use sweet ham.
Right.
But I think they used brown sugar cured ham.
Or like
or maple or honey,
like
because when we went to the restaurant, we were like, ew, ham loaf, I don't know.
And then it was,
and
like,
then we ate it, and then we were like, and it's probably because of the sugar that was in it, because we are kind of sugar
fiends.
Yeah, fiends. But as far as this one, it didn't say to do that,
right?
So I just got a regular cured ham.
I like it. It's a good flavor, and I actually,
it is a really good
I
flavor.
wouldn't say that I prefer the other.
You want to just keep eating it, so that's good.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I prefer the other one over this necessarily, but I do think that's a like marked difference from what we had in the restaurant. You know what I mean? Like it's just a difference. I like that one. I like this one. I probably would take either.
Right.
And maybe like if I were gonna cook this often, maybe switch it up a little bit.
Oh, definitely. I mean? We could try this with a maple cured or sugar cured and just see what the difference is.
Yeah.
So, in terms of like this pamphlet, probably just know that you're going to... I'm not really sure what to do in terms of like the salt omission from the potato balls. Because I don't know if they just... some cookbooks automatically assume that you're just going to season however you want to season every dish they put in there.
Right.
So there could be some of that thinking where it's like, well, each woman is going to season according to what her household likes. However, if you're not an experienced cook, you're going to be picking this up. You're really not going to know what to do with a lot of these recipes. They're very bare bones. There's a lot of them that don't even have measurements. Like in the voiceover, you'll just hear me saying, and a lump of butter. Well, a lump of butter means a lot of different things to a lot of different people.
Yeah.
So, to me, a lump of butter might be that, but to someone else, you don't know.
Yeah.
So a lot of these recipes leave a lot of things to chance and to the cook already just knowing what they want to do.
Yeah.
It
kind of is like a bare bones idea of a dish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
this
is how you make a ham loaf. But everybody has their own version of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. It's just the skeleton version of a recipe, and you pad it out.
Right.
So
if you know that going in,
it's not going to be bad.
You can still make some excellent dishes.
Yeah, I would say that this is a good meal.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Add some salt to these two, and you've got an A-class meal that I think that any family would really like. Now, if you've got some picky kids, you might not pass on on the ham loaf. You know what I mean? Like,
well, the ham loaf,
because I was never a meatloaf kind of kid, so I kind of
but if you did the sugar meat,
oh, that's true.
Like if you did the honey ham or the
do the maple or the brown sugar cured ham, they're gonna eat it.
Yeah, if you do that, fine, you won't have any problem getting kids to eat it.
So I would say this is a really good, well-rounded meal.
Yeah.
That's good. Now you're not gonna want to do this
often
after work or something like that. This took a lot of time and it did a lot of dishes. I mean, and I even cut down on the usual amount of dishes I do. You'll notice that I did not pre-measure things this time. I really wanted to try to give like a very accurate account of how much that I would have to do. And I dirtied a lot of equipment and a lot of dishes because you'll see here I got a lot of separate roasting pans. I had a lot of separate pots for everything because you're boiling it this and then you're grating it and then you're using your food processor, you're using a lot of things. Was it worth all that work? I'm kind of up in the air on that one actually because the vegetables are just kind of like
they're not special. Like
they're not special.
Like I don't know. I didn't even know you baked them.
Like, I don't even know why you would have put them in there.
I'm not sure why you have to do that at all.
Like, I don't either.
I don't taste anything that changes that from what you could have just gotten in the pot.
No.
On the stovetop.
Unless I'd added a lot more ham.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But even then, I don't know that you couldn't have gotten the same flavor out of just the pot on the stove.
Yeah, see, I don't either. That's what I'm thinking. Like, it seemed like there was some unnecessary steps. Now, anytime you fry something, you're going to have a lot of
weird steps
in there. Yeah. You're going to have a lot of leftover oil you got to figure out what to do with.
Yeah.
And stuff. But
are they good enough to like...
These are really good. I'll give them that. Good. They're addictive. Like, I really want to eat another one. Yeah. I will sprinkle it with salt before I do that. But was it something that I popped into my mouth and was like, whoa, this was worth every extra step I did? I mean... Is it any different than a potato cake? You know what I mean? Like when you have your mashed potatoes and then the next day you decide to use those leftover mashed potatoes for a potato cake, like, fried potato cakes.
Basically the same thing.
It's kind of the same thing. It has a little bit more of a nuanced deep fry flavor. It's got like that extra burst of, fried oil that we all love in your mouth. But I don't know if it was like, whoa, I had to just do this.
I mean, I've had potato cakes that are just as good.
Yeah.
So and they are less work, I think.
A lot less work,
because you don't have to deep fry it. You just got to put a thin layer.
Right, and that's something. And I mean, you can add everything to this that you do a potato cake.
Yeah, and
it's basically
fry it in
the
a
same
cake
thing.
Instead of a ball. Like actually, just take this. Put it in a cake instead of a ball.
Yeah,
and
you're
like
done.
You do a pancake or
then you're not kind of having the extra steps. But,
it's different.
You're basically skipping the mashed potato step. You know what I mean? Like you're making mashed potatoes without eating it and then deep frying it. So it's like, I don't know. I mean,
is it worth the extra for no reason?
Yeah, I'm tired and I'm really warm right now. So it's like, was it worth all this extra effort I did to create this meal? And I don't know that I can honestly say yes.
Now the ham loaf.
The ham loaf is good. And that wasn't really a whole lot of extra stuff. It's basically a meatloaf. Everybody can do that.
Just using ham instead.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a good thing. The vegetables...
It's kind of a good way to stretch out a ham too. Like if you don't have a whole ham,
right? And you just wouldn't need to add things.
Actually, that's one thing you could do with something like this is like the day after Thanksgiving.
Oh, that would be good.
Take some of that food and turn it into something like this. Like if you've got some ham left over. A ham loaf is a great idea.
And your mashed potatoes.
Mashed potatoes.
Most people have
got those left over from Thanksgiving. This is a great way.
There you go.
And then you can just side the vegetables.
Yeah, that's what I would do. I would use this as a leftover. And of course, usually people have corn and green beans left over from Thanksgiving.
And you can mix it together and
I
chop
would
some of your ham up and throw it in there.
Yeah.
And you've got a whole nother dinner that's like separate from Thanksgiving dinner.
Right.
But using all the same stuff you had at Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I don't think I would make this as a standalone meal, but as something to recycle leftovers, boom.
Yeah.
It's like, it's perfect.
And it's a whole new
that.
meal. Yeah. It's completely different than what I would have had at Thanksgiving in a way, you know, but at the same time.
And I think people would be happy with that.
Yeah.
You know,
I agree.
So, okay. So, this is kind of an odd one for us because I had really, really high hopes.
Yeah.
And then, you know, so I'm going to give this meal 3 stars if you do this as a standalone. But I'm going to give it 4 to 4.5 stars.
As a recycle.
As a leftover recycle recipe. I think that is where this meal would shine.
I agree.
As for the cookbook, I don't know what to give because, okay, I'll say it this way. I'm going to give this little pamphlet. I only paid $1.49, by the way, for it. So, I mean, I got a pretty good, you know, leftover idea. There's some really good looking pies and cakes in here and stuff. So it's worth $1.49.
Yeah.
Definitely
worth the money.
Probably a lot higher now, but I'm gonna give it 3 stars if you're a beginning cook or you're the kind of cook that doesn't want to spend a lot of time in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Because you're going to hate this. If it's time consuming or you're just like, salt, why didn't they tell me? You know, I mean, that's annoying for a lot of people to, you know, have to kind of guess with some recipes. But I'm going to go ahead and I'll give it a 4. If you're an experienced cook and you're like me and you're like, there should be salt added to this, you know. Like I said,
you come into it. If you come into it, even as a newer cook, I think if you come into the cookbook knowing this is a bare bones and I want to like make it my recipe.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? Like this is how you start a recipe.
Right, you can do that.
Let me play with it. Like if you're even if you're a new cook that understands that coming in, hey, I need to play with this a little bit. Yeah. It's not that bad of a cookbook. Probably.
Yeah, it probably isn't. I'm just giving it 4 stars because it's time consuming.
Yeah.
You're going to end up with a lot of dishes, a lot of extra steps. And
they're probably assuming more help in the kitchen than one person trying to do a lot too.
They probably are. I mean, Amish families do have really big families.
Yeah.
You know, an Amish woman is not by herself in the kitchen.
She's probably got one kid on dishes, one kid on food prep, one kid on... No.
That and grandma is usually, you know, at the house too. I mean, they don't put their elderly in nursing homes or they don't live separate from one another generally. They're kind of like a 3-generational home a lot of times. So you've got help.
Yeah.
Whereas for just us, you know, I kind of finally put him on dish duty there towards the end while I was frying the potatoes because I was just like, I had already done like 2 loads of dishes before that. So yeah, if you got a lot of help in the kitchen, this isn't anything. But if you're a typical modern family, you know, especially if you're working,
1 or 2
you're not
kids
gonna.
That would help. It might not be horrible. But.
So I think I'm still gonna stick to my 3 if you really don't want to be in the kitchen a long time, and if you're a new cook. And I'm gonna go ahead and stick with the 4 if you're a little more experienced and you don't mind being in the kitchen.
Right. You want to do something special, maybe?
Yeah. Or if you have a dishwasher, that would have helped a lot. You can see we do not have a dishwasher in this kitchen, so it's all by hand.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess that wraps up our Amish Mennonite Shaker and Pennsylvania Dutch extravaganza that we've had all month long. And next month will be December. So we're gonna do some really special little Christmas things. I have a couple different ideas that we're gonna do, so it's gonna be a really fun month. So stay tuned for that. I bought something that I'm really excited for. I'll just give you a hint. It's a sequel to another cookbook that we really loved. So really happy, can't wait to delve into that. So thank you for watching this week, and we'll see you next time. Have a great one. Bye. If you like this video, make sure to hit the like button and hit the subscribe button for future videos. In the meantime, here are 2 videos you may enjoy. Thanks for watching.